Decision by the Legal Practice Council to charge Advocate Dali Mpofu. Among the charges is that of bringing the legal profession into disrepute. They relate to several matters. These include the inquiry that was probing Advocate Busuam Kobana's fitness to hold office, as well as his remarks during the Judicial Service Commission's interview of the now Chief Justice Maya. Mpofu is set to appear before the Legal Practice Council's disciplinary committee later this month, where he's expected to answer to these charges. And he joins us now in studio. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Bonge.
How seriously are you taking these charges?
Not very.
Why?
Because, you know, these charges are very frivolous and completely unsustainable. But I've categorized them into two groups. The first group, I really call them laughable, because they are. And it's actually surprising.
Which ones are laughable?
The ones that have to do with cross-examination of people. I think
in the Section 194 inquiry.
In the Section 194 inquiry, yes, both. The two relate to Professor Dali, and the other one to some guy called Van Lochrenberg.
And then there's another one to the chairperson.
No,
remember your remark to the chairperson.
Yes, so that's an older.
Do you put that among those that are
yes,
laughable?
That's in the laughable group.
Okay.
And now those charges really must come from someone who doesn't understand how courtroom situations work, or how the legal system works, or what cross-examination actually is. Because the essence of that is that I was trying to discredit the witness. But then that's the purpose of cross-examination. Anyone who has ever watched cross-examination would know that is the purpose of cross-examination. Now, of course, there are different styles. I mean, you'd know that as a journalist. There are journalists who might ask questions robustly. Others prefer to be conversational or laid back and so on. But you can't call either one of those professional misconduct. I mean, I knew two cross-examiners who were very good. One was called Chaskalsin, and the other one was called Bezos, and they had totally different styles. Bezos was more confrontational, Chaskalsin was more, calm and so on, but both effective, yeah. So that's that category. Then there's, before I even come to the second group, let me say this. If you look at the charges, you'll see that it's what I call a shopping list of concoction of things. Coming back from 2021, about 4 years ago, I think is the earliest one. The latest one is maybe 2 years ago, 2023. So, I mean, what kind of a regulatory body waits for 4 years and packs in some basket?
Does it not suggest they've been watching your conduct and possibly being concerned over time?
No, it suggests the exact opposite. It suggests if you watch your conduct, and if one thing is not acceptable in 2021, why do you wait until 2025? I mean, that's ridiculous.
One of the charges, right, especially when you talk about cross-examination, we'll get to the chairperson in just a moment. It says that you were seeking to impugn and discredit, the
yes.
Advocate Tulima Donsela, and saying that you wanted to impute criminal conduct on her part.
Well, I did not impute criminal conduct on the part. If I did, it was in the course of cross-examination. The point there, I think what they are referring to was the issue about the affidavit, whether she had indeed signed the affidavit, where until today it wasn't clear on what date the affidavit was signed. But all of that, I mean, happens every day in our courtrooms. I'm sure you've seen in trials within a trial, somebody being asked, is this your signature? Were you there? Were you in your sober senses? And all that. Those are quite normal issues in cross-examination. So the second category, which I don't really find very funny, which I think has serious implications, are the charges that relate to the Chief Justice and the Judge President.
I'm going to get to that in just a moment.
Well, let me just give them a category, because I'm saying that those charges, I think, really come from somebody who also seeks to discredit those esteemed members of our judiciary, because to have to rehash and drag them into something, what do they expect me to do? To call them as witnesses and put them up in the public, or is the LPC going to call them up in public?
Now that you've brought it up, let's go there, because and I'll circle back to the first part then, because in part, when it comes to Justice Maya, the now Chief Justice of South Africa, it takes us back to a time when there was that interview when she was still the president of the Supreme Court, and it says when you were opening up, and I remember there was a bit of a stir when this one happened, that we spent our nights together. Then there was, of course, a clarification to say we were studying and doing a lot of work together. Now, what this, the charges say is that the statement failed to uphold the principles of our Constitution, as this remark was discriminatory and laden with inappropriate sexual innuendo, which was offensive, unprofessional, and lacking decorum.
Yes, well, that's a sign of a sick mind, quite frankly. Anybody who can conjure up a statement made in that context to have to do anything to do with sex is sick in their own mind. I think, or probably a kind of a pedophile, because I don't understand. I mean, so if I had said, for example, we had spent a day or an afternoon together, it would be fine. But if I say we spend a night, then it's sexual. So sex only happens at night.
I suppose, though, when you go back to that moment, though, there was a need to clarify it, because it could have been taken out of context. And even in that interview, it was clarified. So maybe if you look back, is it something that you would regard as appropriate that you should have said?
But you've just said it yourself. It was clarified at the moment. That was 3 years ago. So what happens now in 2025? When was it unclarified? I mean, what kind of nonsense is this?
Do you think you should have made it, though?
Yes, I'll make it. I'll make it now to you again. Yeah, we spent a night together studying with Justice Meyer. Shoot me.
All right, and when you then look at some of the charges, I'm circling back to Mr. van Lochrenberg, because there was that exchange during the inquiry where you were asking about the psychiatric condition and all of that. Some viewed it, and I remember at the time, others were saying that in a country like ours, where there's a stigma in some quarters of society around mental health, why did you need to mention that? But when you look at what the LPC is saying, is that you've contravened a paragraph 56(4) of the Code of Conduct, and it clearly states in part that a legal practitioner shall not impugn the character of a witness unless he or she has good grounds to do so. Do you believe you had good grounds to bring that up?
Of course I did. I had more than good grounds. I would never ask a question to a witness without good grounds to do so. I've been in this game for many, many decades, so I know, what to ask and when. So look, honestly, believe me, all of this is just, a concoction of things to tarnish my name, driven by certain elements within the LPC and in the, chattering classes out there who have political motives. One of the people who took this decision is someone that I had laid a complaint against myself because he had insulted me on SAFM.
Who's
I think. Well, maybe let's not get into the names now. It will be done before the LPC. But this person, I'm told, that for the past 3 or 4 years has been trying to get me charged in the LPC. And you might remember there was an incident which was reported where members of the LPC walked out of a meeting because this person was doing this. So he had to wait now until that LPC was changed. There's a new LPC, and he obviously found soft ground of people who were pliably prepared to do the dirty job. So all of that will come out in due course.
So are you suggesting that the LPC is playing politics and colluding with some sectors of society in order to bring these charges against you? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, whether advertently or inadvertently, they are certainly playing along. As I said in another interview, I can understand some godforsaken complainant, who has never been in a courtroom, thinking, oh, well, this is not how you do cross-examination. But how these things pass through the hands of lawyers is puzzling, and therefore it's clearly part of that vendetta. The way they are packaged, as I said, the packaging over a number of years, the content of the thing, the fact that it was motivated. I'm told one of these came from some NGO called KSAC, whose credentials we all know. So all this will come to pass. I'm not so much concerned about dealing with the merits of the charges. Obviously, I can't conduct the hearing here on television, but I'm telling you about the atmospheric issues which make me totally convinced that this is just a witch hunt and it's not going to succeed, because if their intention is to dissuade me from doing my work and fighting for justice, well, they've come to the wrong address.
Much has been said, though, about your exchanges with the chairperson of that committee in Parliament at the time. And I remember at some point I even did interviews to that effect. And one of your exchanges with him actually is quoted as one of the charges here, when you were saying, and I remember this very clearly, when you said you're not entitled to abuse me, and the way you are abusing me, I'm more senior to you in many ways, but one day you will pay. It's not a threat, but a promise. And some viewed this as a threat. And here you are now being told you have, in fact, charged to say that you've contravened the code of conduct.
Well, it's nonsense, because, again, it starts there. Nobody says, what was the abuse that I was complaining about? You know, which is, you know, it's a disease that, you know, you blame the victim. That's why people, you know, blame women for wearing short skirts. You blame the victim. Why is no one talking about the abuse that I suffered at the hands of that man for the whole morning, which made me to say what I said? And I would say it again. He is junior to me, and he knows what I mean by that. He knows
what
about
do you
it.
mean?
Well, I will reveal it at the thing, but I'm saying he knew what I meant in all the spheres, culturally, age-wise, politically, and any other way you can imagine. He knows what I meant by that. So the fact that he was going to pay was that he has already paid. He's already been kicked out of Parliament.
So are you suggesting that him not returning to Parliament had a lot to do with your exchange? Is that
well,
what
I'm
saying?
sure. Well, the voters who were watching must have had something to do with it.
So when you then look at later this month, right, because you are now due to appear before the LPC, are you going to be calling some of these individuals as witnesses? And I ask this in case in point, the Chief Justice, of course, and there are a number of other charges that you're facing.
No, well, the onus is on them. They should call those witnesses. If they don't call the witnesses, why must I call them? Because I'm innocent as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see what they have, but I can assure you, whatever they have, they're going to regret this. I'm telling you now, they're going to regret the day they made this stupid decision.
The LPC, we've reached out to them. And they say, in a brief statement they sent to us, the LPC would like to highlight that when charges are brought against any legal practitioner, the legal practitioner is given an opportunity to respond and address the charges brought by the LPC. During these LPC disciplinary proceedings, Advocate Mpofu will appear before an independent disciplinary committee. This DC will make the determination on the matter and submit a recommendation to the Gauteng Provincial Council, who will also provide and take a view on the matter before a final recommendation is presented to the LPC National Council for final decision. Furthermore, the LPC stating that in accordance with Section 38(3) of the LPA, it will publish the details of the hearing, including the charges of the committee members and the outcome after the hearing concludes. The LPC is not at liberty to disclose this information prior to the hearing's conclusion. The information that has been published in the media is premature, and the LPC does not condone the publishing of such information before a legal practitioner has had an opportunity to present his case before the DC.
Well, it's a little bit too late for them to come with that, pious declaration. Why are we talking about this in the media now? Because they, directly or indirectly, released the charges to the media. The first time I heard about these charges was in the media. And it either would have been leaked by me or by them. And it was leaked by them because it was not leaked by me. So, all that claptrap is meaningless now.
Before I let you go, though, what happens if they find you guilty?
What happens? If they do what?
Find you guilty.
I don't care. I mean, why should I care? Bongiwe, I've been fighting for justice all my life. And many people ask that. What happens if they kill you? What happens if they torture you? What happens if they... This is a conscious decision. It's not by mistake that I decided to fight injustice. And I know the consequences. I don't expect racists and other people like that to give me a hug and a kiss. So I know that, if you fight for justice, those people who want the status quo to remain will come fighting you. Otherwise, I would just, be a normal, quiet lawyer minding my own business. I'm not scared of them. They must bring it on. That's really what I have to say.
All right, let's see then how it all unfolds, and hopefully we get to